In the heart of Africa, surrounded by wide green fields and tall baobab trees, there was a small, peaceful village. The village was full of life. Every morning the golden sun would rise over the huts made of clay and straw, and the sound of birds singing filled the air. Villagers spent their days farming, fishing near the river, and taking care of their families. Children laughed and played in the open fields while elders shared stories under the shade of large trees. Among the children of the village were two boys named Kamalo and Zola. They were known by everyone in the village because of their strong friendship. Since they were very young, they had done everything together. If Kamalo went to the river to catch fish, Zola would be right beside him. If Zola climbed trees to pick fruits, Kamalo would always help him carry them home. Even though they were best friends, their personalities were quite different. Kamalo was very ambitious and always dreamed of becoming rich one day. Whenever travelers passed through the village and talked about big cities, treasures, and gold, Kamalo would listen with shining eyes. He believed that somewhere in the world there was a great opportunity waiting for him. Zola, on the other hand, had a calm and simple heart. He believed happiness was already around them, in the laughter of the villagers, in the warm meals shared with family, and in the loyalty of true friends. To him, life in the village was already a blessing. Despite their different dreams, one thing never changed: their loyalty to each other. The villagers often said, "If you see Kamalo, Zola will not be far behind." No one in the village knew that soon their friendship would face a test that would change both of their lives forever. As the years passed, Kamalo and Zola grew from playful boys into young men, but their friendship remained just as strong as before. Every evening, after finishing their daily work, they would sit together near the quiet river outside the village. The cool breeze moved gently through the tall grass, and the sky slowly turned orange as the sun disappeared behind the distant hills. These peaceful evenings were their favorite time to talk about life and the future. Kamalo often spoke about his big dreams. He wanted to explore the world beyond their small village. Sometimes travelers passed through their village and told stories about distant lands filled with large markets, shining gold, and endless opportunities. Kamalo listened to these stories with excitement in his eyes. One evening he said to Zola, "One day, I will leave this village and find great wealth. I want to build a better house for my family and make sure they never struggle again." Kamalo believed that somewhere far away, a great treasure was waiting for him. But Zola smiled calmly and looked at the flowing river. His dreams were very different. He said softly, "Kamalo, wealth is not always gold or money. Sometimes the greatest treasure is the peace we already have, our families, our village, and our friendship." Zola was grateful for the simple life they lived. He enjoyed helping the villagers, sharing meals with his family, and living close to nature. Even though their dreams were different, they respected each other deeply. Kamalo admired Zola's kindness and wisdom, while Zola respected Kamalo's courage and determination. Neither of them knew that very soon, an unexpected rumor would spread through the village, a rumor about a mysterious golden river hidden deep in the forest. One bright afternoon, the peaceful rhythm of the village was suddenly interrupted by the arrival of a tired traveler. His clothes were dusty, and his face showed signs of a long journey through the wild forests. The villagers quickly gathered around him, offering water and food as they always did for guests. After resting for a while under the shade of a large baobab tree, the traveler began to share stories from his journey. The villagers listened with curiosity, but one story in particular caught everyone's attention. The traveler spoke about a mysterious river hidden deep inside the great forest, a place far beyond the lands the villagers usually visited. According to him, the river was unlike any other. Its water sparkled under the sunlight, and sometimes small pieces of gold could be found along its banks. The moment the traveler mentioned gold, whispers spread quickly among the villagers. Some people were excited. Others were doubtful. Many had heard stories like this before, stories about hidden treasures in the forest that were never proven true. But for Kamalo, the story felt different. His heart began to beat faster as he listened carefully to every word. In his mind, he could already imagine the shining gold beside the river. To him, this sounded like the opportunity he had always been waiting for. Later that evening, Kamalo rushed to find Zola near the river where they often met. With excitement in his voice, he said, "Zola, Did you hear the traveler's story? A river with gold. This could change our lives forever. Zola looked thoughtful. He had heard the story too, but something inside him felt uncertain. He quietly replied, "Stories of treasure can be dangerous, Kamalo. Sometimes the search for gold leads people into trouble." But Kamalo's mind was already filled with dreams of the Golden River. And soon, he would ask Zola to join him on a journey that neither of them would ever forget. Sparkles. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Kamalo was already awake. His mind was filled with thoughts of the Golden River and the treasure that might be waiting there. He packed a small bag with some dried food, water, and a simple knife for protection. Soon he went to find Zola. Standing outside Zola's hut, Kamalo said eagerly, "This is our chance, my friend. If the traveler's story is true, we could change our lives forever. Come with me to find the Golden River." Zola looked at Kamalo for a moment. Deep in his heart, he was unsure about this journey. The forest was known to be dangerous, filled with wild animals and hidden paths that few people understood. But Zola also knew one thing. He would never let his best friend face danger alone. With a calm smile, he finally nodded and said, "If you are going, then I will go with you." Together, they left the village quietly while the sky slowly turned golden with the rising sun. As they walked deeper into the forest, the path became harder to follow. Tall trees blocked much of the sunlight, and strange sounds echoed between the thick bushes. Sometimes they heard birds calling loudly, and sometimes the distant roar of wild animals. The journey was not easy. By midday, the heat was strong and their water was running low. Their legs were tired, and their stomachs growled with hunger. But every time they felt like stopping, Kamalo would point forward with determination. "The Golden River must be somewhere ahead," he would say. Zola continued walking beside him, offering encouragement and reminding him to stay careful. After many hours of walking through the dense forest, Kamalo and Zola finally heard something that made them stop in their tracks, the gentle sound of flowing water. They looked at each other with excitement and quickly followed the sound. Pushing through the tall grass and thick bushes, they soon arrived at a beautiful river shining under the bright afternoon sun. The water was clear and calm, and the sunlight reflected off its surface like tiny stars. The two friends slowly walked closer to the riverbank. Then suddenly, Kamalo noticed something unusual on the ground. Near the edge of the water, small golden pieces were scattered among the stones. They sparkled brightly in the sunlight. Kamalo's eyes widened with amazement. "Zola, look! It's gold!" he shouted with excitement. The two friends knelt down and picked up the shining pieces. They were heavy and bright, just like the traveler had described. At first, both of them were happy. They had actually found the Golden River. But slowly, something began to change inside Kamalo. As he looked at the gold in his hands, his mind filled with thoughts of wealth, big houses, and power. The more he looked at the gold, the more he wanted it all for himself. While Zola was looking at the river and enjoying the moment, Kamalo quietly began to gather the gold and hide some of it inside his bag. A small voice inside him whispered that he should share it with his friend, but his greed grew stronger. "If I keep more of the gold, I can become rich faster," he thought. Just as he tried to secretly hide another piece of gold, his foot slipped on a wet stone near the riverbank. In a sudden moment, Kamalo lost his balance and began to fall toward the rushing water. As Kamalo slipped toward the rushing water, a sharp gasp escaped his lips. The river's current was strong, and the golden pieces scattered around him glimmered like tiny stars in the sunlight. Panic surged through him. For a moment, it felt as if all his dreams of wealth would vanish in an instant. But before he could be swept away, Zola acted without thinking. He rushed forward and grabbed Kamalo's hand with a firm grip. Zola's strength and calmness steadied him. "Hold on, Kamalo. Don't let go," Zola shouted, pulling with all his might. Kamalo's heart raced. He realized in that moment how foolish he had been, letting greed take over his mind, forgetting the value of their friendship. He clutched Zola's hand tightly, feeling the river's cold spray on his face. Step by step, Zola carefully pulled him back to solid ground. Once they were both safe, Kamalo collapsed on the soft grass, trembling. Zola sat beside him, his expression calm but serious. "Kamalo," Zola said softly, "I told you the search for gold could be dangerous, but I never thought it would almost take your life. Your greed could have cost us everything." Kamalo's eyes filled with tears. He looked at his friend and said, "Zola, I was wrong. I let my desire for gold blind me. I almost lost not just my life, but the most important thing in the world, our friendship." Zola smiled gently and placed a hand on Kamalo's shoulder. "We are more than gold, Kamalo. Life, loyalty, and friendship, these are the real treasures. Gold can come and go, but a true friend is forever." In that moment, Kamalo understood the truth. He emptied his bag of the gold he had secretly hidden and offered it to Zola, saying, "We will take only what we need and leave the rest for others." The river glistened peacefully beside them, as if approving the lesson learned. Friendship and loyalty outweigh all riches. Glowing star. After the incident at the river, Kamalo and Zola sat together for a long time, watching the water flow gently under the afternoon sun. The forest, which had seemed so full of treasure and opportunity, now felt different. It was quieter, calmer, and full of lessons. Kamalo looked at Zola and spoke with a voice filled with humility and gratitude. "Zola, I was so focused on gold that I forgot what truly matters. I almost lost my life. And worse, I almost lost you, my best friend." Zola smiled and replied softly, "Kamalo, life is more than riches. The forest and the river may hold gold, but nothing is as valuable as trust, loyalty, and friendship. These are treasures that last forever." The two friends gathered only a few pieces of gold, enough to help their families, but not enough to let greed control them. Then they started the journey back to their village. Along the way, they talked and laughed, their bond stronger than ever. When they returned, the villagers were curious about their adventure. Kamalo shared the story of the river and admitted his mistake. The villagers listened carefully and nodded, understanding the lesson Kamalo had learned. From that day on, the villagers often told the story of Kamalo and Zola to their children. It became a story not about wealth, but about courage, loyalty, and the strength of true friendship. Kamalo himself changed after that day. He still dreamed of a better life for his family, but he now understood that ambition must never come at the cost of others or of important values. Zola continued to live simply, but he was proud that his friend had finally understood the meaning of true treasure. The Golden River remained a legend, but its real lesson became known to everyone. Money and riches can be lost, but friendship, trust, and love are priceless treasures that endure forever. And so, Kamalo and Zola continued to live their lives, not as boys chasing gold, but as friends who had discovered the richest treasure of all. Glowing star.